I'm Jennifer Shannon, Communications Manager at Jubilee Housing, and you are on air with Jubilee. All right, I am here with Gina Wyley, the Director of Reentry Housing and Services. If I got that incorrect, please correct me now.
You're
But
doing great.
all right, but thank you, Gina, for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
All right, Jason already gave us a little bit of an overview of reentry and what it entails, but tell me, maybe before we even get there, a little bit about your background, your history in reentry, and what brought you to this work.
Certainly. So I feel like it was like a divine intervention, per se. I would say that I started off in the federal government in 1999. And my sister has about 33 years currently with the Internal Revenue Service. So I joined her many, many years ago in the IRS, and I recognized that that wasn't my passion. I stayed for about a year. I applied to other positions, and I got hired. I got an offer for two different roles. One was U.S. Customs, and the other was for Court Services and Offender Supervision Agency, which is probation and parole supervision. So I said, whoever completes my background first is where I'm headed. And it just so happened to be what they call CSOSA, which is court services. So I started that position about 2001, late 2001, and I joined the substance abuse treatment branch, which we basically were in charge of, clinical assessment, any treatment, coordination, things of that sort. Fast forward about 8 months out, my supervisor was she was informed that we were going to start our first mental health branch throughout the division. So it was one of those things that she proposed that I come with her. And she said, would you like to go? And I said, no. She comes back and she says, you're going. I said, well, what was the purpose of you asking me if I'd like to go? So we started the first mental health team. I was actually the chair of the actual training, so I created the trainings. I actually trained the entire, a team turned into a branch. So I was in charge of training all staff. And then I was promoted to work over at the Reentry and Sanction Center, which is actually where individuals that transition from the Bureau of Prisons come through. It's created as a way, they consider it treatment readiness for those that have a history of substance abuse. So with that, I worked there. I was actually coordinating there. And then they asked me to return to supervision, which was probation and parole case management. And that was under St. HIDA, which is substance abuse intensive, high intensity drug trafficking area. It's a lot, but that's an acronym. And I stayed there for the duration of my time with CSOSA. So what I recognized and how I got to Jubilee is after running a mental health team of about 70 employees. This was a 122-bed program. I then recognized that there were so many gaps in service for those that I would consider underserved or those that were transitioning, that I wanted to definitely be on the other side of things. So when I actually saw this position announcement, I said that directly aligns with my mission. To make certain that we're not just certainly requesting things of people that they can't necessarily give because they don't have adequate services. So when I was on the other side of things, of course, in probation and parole case management, it was revoke, revoke, revoke. And it was, well, why do we revoke if the person was in essence set up for failure? If they don't necessarily have funds to get back and forth, for drug testing and supervision, how do we best meet those needs, So I was one that I would dance around the sanctions matrix 4 or 5 times before I got into revocation because I recognized that people need opportunity. It's not always about being punitive, but, providing them with adequate services. So when I got here to Jubilee, I recognized this was the platform for me to be able to provide those resources, for me to meet people where they are. And even though I did that as best as I could in supervision, I can really execute the plan here. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. I love that you said and mentioned passion because Jason shared that with us as well. It's like you have to have a passion, like you bring this to the work every day. It's not something that you just do because it's a job. You do it because you have an energy for it. So I appreciate you sharing that. Gina, a lot of people, I don't think, know what reentry is and who we serve exactly. So if you will, just tell us what is reentry and give us the details about it.
Reentry to me should almost be redefined. And it's funny because I recently attended a conference called Reentry Reimagined, and what will we actually think about reentry if we had a magic wand to say this is what it is now? And also take into account the voices of those that are mostly affected, which are the individuals that are returning home. So reentry is once again about providing services and supports to the person before you. Not based on what you have on paper, not based on what you're selling to anybody or marketing, but what is it that the person needs? So that's what we take into account here at Jubilee. Once again, assessing the person to see what is it that's most important to them. How can we best service them? If we don't know, we need to find out, So it's about researching those opportunities that matter most to the person.
What part of the program do you feel, I'm not going to say is most powerful, because I think just in its entirety and the ways and the things that I've seen from it, some of the stories I've heard, even some of the videos that you've shared, just about what people have gone through and then now coming out of maybe the situation that they were in. What do you think is most powerful about the program at Jubilee Housing, or how is it transforming lives?
Outside of housing, the most important and I think the most impactful is the relationships that we've built. Oftentimes when individuals are released from incarceration or they're returning from a treatment program or any other type program, it is the fact that they have lost a lot of their supports. These individuals have trust issues. They don't know if you're going to follow through, if you're going to, a lot of people sell talk, but they actually don't act. So it's more or less the relationships built. I'm going to give you a prime example. We have 2 individuals that were recently approved for housing through Jubilee. And one is, they've been approved through a private leasing agency. However, they're now fearful, Why? Because we then not become staff to them, we become family. And so it's the relationships that are built. It's the fact that we have individuals who have graduated from our program over 6 years ago, and they still call weekly, and they still, require some support, So with that, I think overall the work that we do, it's about building those relationships. It's about encouraging the fact that and promoting the fact that we deserve a level of trust because we have shown and exhibited the fact that we are for the people. And I think that overall, once you develop that relationship and trust, you can just about do anything with the individual.
It's some new things that are happening. I feel like, and I'm saying reentry. I want you to give me a better term before we get off. But we have KB coming online, Ontario Place. We have other programs that I don't even know about that I'm sure you guys are putting in place or already have in place. What is most exciting about the time of expansion for the people that you are serving?
Well, we are at maximum capacity right now. And what I recognize is that I think if I were able to place it on a board behind me, our current waiting list and how many referrals we receive in the course of a week, it is amazing, which lets us know that there is so much demand right now that we can't meet. And I think everything's a win. Someone may say 18 beds on top of our current, 17 or, an additional, it doesn't matter if it were one, that's one additional person we can serve. So to know that we had 26 set-aside units for long-term housing and 18 additional units for supported living is amazing. It's just, like I said, we've run out of, we are at maximum capacity. And every day people call us, in dire need of housing. As you know, without a roof over your head, it's nothing much you can do. So as much as we want to ensure the wraparound services and supports, you've got to get that roof over your head to, so that you have a solid foundation, and then you can build on top of that. So at this point in time, knowing that we have the additional units coming online soon, that actually is extremely liberating in some degree, because, like I said, with the phone calls that come in, you don't want to turn anybody away, and unfortunately we've had to say, well, at this point in time, at this juncture, we don't have this, but maybe then we'll have something. And like I said, maintaining contact with these individuals to give them a level of hope. As you know, going throughout the day being hopeless and helpless is a horrible place to be. But we want to encourage and give them some form of hope. And even if we can't serve them at this point, here and now, it's about how can we assist you with connecting the dots to maybe other providers. So once again, it's just an amazing feeling that we are expanding. This is the time to do it. As you recognize, with all this happening in the world, there are a lot of people that are disadvantaged. And yeah, we just want to let them know that it is a sense of hope.
Absolutely. So if you could change the word reentry, do you have a word or a phrase that you would use to describe, again, reentry, but just this transition back home?
I probably would not put a word on it.
Okay.
Because in essence, some people can define that negatively. So I would probably just say that, this is one word that I have used and have used it over and over again is like community reintegration, So I probably would say something like that, because you use that for individuals with disabilities. You use that with individuals with, like I say, intellectual disabilities or cognitive, whatever you want to say. So I would probably use a word just as generic as that.
Okay. That's fair. I will keep that in mind, especially as we're trying to figure out marketing and communicating, though, more importantly, just about what you guys are doing. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would add to this conversation that we may have missed, or that you want to share about this community, this integration into the community?
No, I just think on top of everything, it takes a village, it takes a community. And I think that with all our providers that we have partnered with, it makes everything possible. This work is not easy, it's people's lives, and a lot of times people want to put a word on it, but these are people's lives that you're dealing with, and it's difficult. But like I said, with our administration, with our federal providers and things of that sort, our funders, I think that we'll get there, but it's a lot of work to be done, and I will continue, as long as I'm in this space, I will continue to advocate in hopes, of additional supports for those that have returned home.
I am here with Audrey Walker, Director of Youth Services at Jubilee Housing, and welcome to our podcast, On Air with Jubilee.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking time out to let me share my experiences with Jubilee Housing over the years. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to start with, you've been with the Jubilee for over 10 years, almost 12 years actually, and what has kept you doing this work?
Yes, it'll be 12 years, January 2026. By nature, I'm an educational practitioner. I used to be a DCPS school teacher. I've gotten my master's in early childhood education and special education. So practicing education, working with youth and families is in my nature, in my blood. My mother was an educator as well. So when I discovered Jubilee Housing and the employment opportunity, I thought it fit well with what my goals and what my career aspirations were at that point. Fast forward 12 years, I've seen our youth just grow leaps and bounds just based on some of the programming that we've put in place over the years. I love the relationships that have been built with our families over the years. Those relationships are invaluable. And I feel like we have a trusting relationship with the family and the child in our program. So I think that drives me. Also, Jubilee has a lot of opportunity for professional growth and development. I didn't start as a director of youth services, but I was able to kind of move up the ranks in the organization, and also just having really good opportunities to advocate for youth and families, advocate for our sustainable budgets, take a lot of professional development courses and workshops. All those have molded me to where I am in my career currently, and I owe that all to Jubilee Housing because those opportunities wouldn't have been afforded if I hadn't been here. And also the networking and partnerships, all those things keep me going and motivated to continue doing this work.
Great. I think I've been telling, Jason from the first part of this episode, just how much people don't know about youth, about supportive services in general. So youth service being a part of that. And I was also a little bit surprised. I was talking to one of the kids or doing an interview with one of the kids in Early Start, and they were talking about, going to Sitar Art Center. And I was like, man, I kind of take for granted and don't even know all of the partnerships and how integrated Jubilee is with some of the other community centers, different organizations. So can you tell us a little bit about the partnerships that Youth Services has? And then if anything, if people are taking things for granted with this great program that you have.
Our partnerships are really key and integral to our sustainability. We are a nonprofit, so we do have tight budgets. So our partnerships allow us to kind of stretch our program offerings. Often the programs are free. We've partnered with the Capital Area Food Bank that provides us healthy meals, snack, dinner, and lunch daily. We partner with American University through the DC Reach program that has supported our high-impact tutoring program. Sitar Art Center supports our program goal of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Our students are able to go to Sitar for, I think, $5 a class to receive those type of programming that align with our program goals, specifically around STEAM. I can keep going on and on, but our partnerships are key and integral. Tomorrow, we're actually having a harvest festival at our Columbia Heights, 1800 Columbia Road, and we have a bunch of partners that will be helping with providing activities and treats and candies. The Potter's House, Jubilee Jumpstart, Christ House, Jubilee Jobs, a Platform of Hope. Those partnerships definitely have been key and integral to providing higher quality programming. And it's important that we always cultivate and keep growing partnerships, networking, because our kids need additional resources, definitely based on their interests, goals, and aspirations. But to provide those resources in-house is very key and is a big aspect of our goal to have high quality programming.
So, like you said, I think you've mentioned this before, and even with me individually, about just how kids can grow up in Jubilee Housing. Can you share a story about a family or a child or someone that has kind of utilized youth services and taken it, from one step to the next?
When I first started at Jubilee Housing, I started in our Early Start program, our kindergarten through third grade program, and we had students in there between 5 and 7 years old. Fast forward to 2025, those students have pipeline through all three of our programs. So we have Early Start, Activity Zone, which is our 4th through 6th grade program, and the Teen Center, which is our 7th through 12th grade program. I've been here long enough to see those students go through all three programs, also receive our Jubilee to College Scholarship, which is a gap funding scholarship for our students who age out of our programs. And then we still support them after college. And then I've seen a handful of our students graduate from college with their bachelor's. So I think that's a great testament to some of the foundations that we've put in place over the years to support our students socio-emotionally, academically, and also supporting the family through our family programming. I think that is that's just one success story that I would like to share, because we are a pipeline model where we want our students, want to retain our students, want our students to go through our programs year after year, and we also want to support them after they age out of our programs. And so that is another good. That's one of the best parts of our program, if I would say, that we're able to retain and pipeline our students through all three of our programs so that they can get the best experience that Jubilee Housing has to offer.
Great. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't covered? I know it's so much that you could talk about, I'm sure, but is there anything else that you want to share about youth services or you?
I just want to say that, I've just been so grateful to be employed with Jubilee Housing. I have two kids of my own. And so this job affords me the opportunity to also be a mother and have flexibility, with my work schedule, but also integrate, some of my goals into my career. I am just very grateful for just the career opportunities. Right now, I'm big on advocacy. I testify in front of the DC Council several times a year. I am a part of the DC Action Network, which is a coalition of OST providers. And our goal is to support and sustain out of school time budgets and also to advocate for our youth and families. And so I'm really excited about continuing that work. This year, next year, and the year after, I feel like, we can't let our foot up off the pedal. And so definitely would love support from the community, from the government, just so that they know that these programs are really, really vital and integral to youth development. They're very important to families and to safety of our youth to have a good place to come after school and summer camp program. And for those of you who don't know, we also have a summer camp program that operates in the summer as well. But I could keep going. There's so much positivity and so much opportunity here at Jubilee Housing. I'm just really excited for what the future has to hold. And I do have one more thing to say. We are trying to expand our programming because right now we want to add on a pre-K. So now we're K through 12. We want to add on pre-K. And we also want to create a middle school program for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I'm really excited about the expansion project that we're working on right now because Jubilee has properties coming online where we'll have more space and we'll be able to serve more. And I think, again, that goes back to Jubilee's bread and butter and the mission, of being a justice housing organization. And we definitely are excited to be able to expand our bandwidth through the Adams Morgan community.
Hi, Miya.
Hi.
This is Miya Morris, Director of Resident Services. And actually, very recently, you were chosen as one of the top 10 directors of resident services in the nation by Elder Care Review. I mean, that is such an honor, Miya. Please tell me, how did you feel even receiving the news about this honor?
It's funny because when I first got the email from them, I was like, what is this spam? I had to authenticate it because they at first said that I was shortlisted. And once I actually had a conversation and it was real and they explained the shortlist process and that there's a continued vetting process, interviews and all the things, you don't know what's going to come of it. But when I actually heard that I had been selected, first of all, it's always an honor, right? To be recognized externally. And then, when you conceptualize what the nation means, if I'm being completely transparent, which is kind of my MO, I was almost like in disbelief because, it's like getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. You feel like I'm too young to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. So in reference to resident services, I feel like, have I done enough? Have I been doing this long enough to warrant such a recognition? But then I embraced it because I feel like whatever they were looking for that they felt like I represented, I was okay with just owning that and, being humbled by it. But I also let it energize me that we obviously have to be heading in the right direction. If even at this point of sometimes you see yourself only in your growth points, your pain points, where you are versus where you want to be, that doesn't mean we can't stop and appreciate that it's great to be honored, it's great to be recognized, and it's encouraging to just, whatever you're doing, keep doing that, and just allow it to fuel you. That obviously it's a nod to that the work is seen and it's meaningful. And if complete objectivity from outsiders says we're doing a good job, I feel like I could take that and I could absorb that, and let this be opportunity to reflect on not where we've been, where we are, and where we hope to be. So I don't know, I had a lot of mixed emotions around it, but I'm having a ball with it, and I love that it's made my husband like so tickled by it that he like references it in conversations when he can. So it's just been an honor and humbling, really, because to be honest with you, I've only done resident services for 4 years. So that's where I feel like I can't say I'm a 20-year veteran in resident services. I've been doing resident services, but I'm more than a 20-year veteran in human services and working with people in some capacity ever since I got my first bachelor's degree. So, in a way, it's just part of my own journey of seeing that, excellence can be recognized even when it's being done quietly.
Absolutely. Listen, I love it, and I think when you called me to share the
Yes, you're one of the first people I called.
I was like, oh my God, like that is a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I think it also speaks to something that I've noticed. I've noticed that your reports, your direct reports and employees, they really do kind of fend for you, and they're very protective of you. And as you were talking about the work, I'm thinking like, I saw that from employees. I see that in residents when I am the brief number of times that I've been around you when you're with residents and you're doing a program or something with like seniors or whomever it is. Like everybody seems to gravitate towards you. So I could see why elder care would also be honoring you, no matter what the length of time has been. But yeah, like what do you think it is about what you bring to this work that has people so invested in who you are and invested in doing a great job? And just, what do you think it is that you bring?
To have longevity in the field around working with people, there's a certain sense of you have to have a genuineness about why you're doing the work. Because when you are in such close proximity to people in crisis or hurting people, like I have been in doing trauma therapy in the past and working with leading mental health case management teams that worked with individuals in community that were at risk of homelessness or at risk of hospitalization and risk of incarceration. When you're doing intense work, to have longevity in that, you have to actually care about what you do and the people you do it for and with. And the with and the for is important, because you can't just be focused on the people you provide services for if you don't care about the helpers. And so I've always viewed my role as a leader around, number one, we can't do human service work and serve other people and not care about the people that are doing the work, because they're the ones that are on the front lines of sacrificing, bringing calm in crisis, and, really having to, really dig in and be in the trenches in really intense situations. And so I learned early on that in working in human services, even when I wasn't in manager roles, that I saw that there was a distinct difference between when you do work and the people who are doing the work feel cared for versus when they don't. And I definitely learned from my experiences when I was on the helper side of a staff and seeing when I felt supported and when I didn't. So I really took that into my taking it seriously into leadership, because I think leadership is a form of stewardship, that for whatever time period that people are working with you, you have stewardship over that relationship and whether they feel supported, whether they feel genuinely cared for, whether the kindness we want to extend to the residents, are we willing to extend to the people that work with us? And so I think that resonates with people. And I brought that from my own experience of feeling like I felt like I knew when it resonated with me and I knew when it didn't. And I wanted to bring that into leadership with me. So there's a stewardship over the people and the relationships with the people. And that comes in many forms, because when you lead with kindness, kindness can look a lot of ways. Kindness can look like honesty about when it's going well and recognizing when it's going well, not just letting that slide under the radar, but actually saying, I like how you did that. I think that was really effective. Show me how you did that. I think that kindness can look like honesty about where growth points are and where there's opportunity to grow, where there's opportunity. So I like to look at it as I'm developing leaders and seeing and holding them to the idea that they're formidable in their own right and they have an equal place on the team. And we're just all managing different things. And so when you treat people as though they're your team, but they're your co-leaders in the work and we just all play a different role, I think there's a different ownership that comes with that. And I think the same thing can be said for the people that we serve, because we don't like to come to the table as though we're the helpers, you're the recipients. We really want to come to the table with the residents, and I think the relationship that we have with the residents, what I think resonates is that there's an investment that the care is genuine. It has to come from a place of genuineness, and that kindness is there. And sometimes that kindness is, this is what we can do, and this is what we can't do. So sometimes kindness looks like boundaries. Sometimes kindness looks like, we use the term here at Jubilee Housing, what it looks like to do something with someone versus for someone. And so sometimes navigating that relationship of whatever it is that we're going to have to do in our role, whether it be with the staff or with the residents, that it's going to come from a place of genuine care. It's going to come from a place of genuineness, that you're going to get my authentic self. And I think that resonates with people. I've known it to resonate because I feel like people walk away not wondering what we can offer, not wondering what I can offer to them, not wondering what support we're capable of giving versus what we're not capable of giving. And I think that if you do it also with a sense of humility, that you're not coming to the table as the expert, you're coming to the table as a partner. And so I see that in leadership. We want to come to the table as a partner in leadership. And then with the residents, we want to come to them as partners in their plan for their life, their goals for their life, not imposing what we feel like they could benefit from. And so when people feel like you're not trying to impose yourself, I think that resonates. But sometimes kindness looks like a hug. Kindness looks like I don't have the answers, but I'm here for you. I'm listening. Sometimes kindness says that when I don't have the answer, let's work on it together. So it takes many forms, but I think I don't want to take full credit because I'm also a pastor's kid, and I've had a front row seat to what this looks like in practice. And I like to say I spent a lot of my younger years, formidable years, being voluntold how to serve in the community. And, when you've been around a family of service, there's a certain part of it that almost seems to be your DNA of who you are and how you approach the world, your worldview in terms of your role in it. And so I feel like I try to bring that in the stewardship of my support as a manager, and I try to bring that in my stewardship around, while this is my shop to lead, I'm going to do it in a way that I feel like I can be proud of the way we've conducted ourselves, the way we've cared, and with the intention of ultimately, my goal with the residents is to allow them to be the change agents for their own lives and determine in what way, in what capacity me and my team could serve to that end.
All right. Good.
Thank you. I'm like, good answer, yes.
Great answer, Miya. So, what is your vision for resident services going forward?
For me, my vision is that our work aligns. I come from a background in evidence-based practice as well. So I believed in aligning with the fidelity of the organization's theory of change and the areas that they wanted to focus on and support, making sure our work is aligned with that. So that's fidelity to that. In addition, wanting to look at it as whatever we're learning in that process, we want to make sure that it's something that we can say, this can be duplicated in your community too. So if we see that people move from affordable housing into business, or affordable housing into not just barely getting by and surviving, and just living life trying to figure out how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. As you know, I can go ahead and quote Tupac here, but he didn't say it first. I used to say that as a kind of like a rhyme, you know, when we were kids. So when you're trying to navigate how to do that, ultimately the bigger goal is something has to be done about these disparities that exist. Something has to be done. And the reason these disparities are a passion for me, because I grew up representing all the statistics that those disparities speak to. And so when you grow up in communities around poverty, when you grow up in communities where there's a need for language justice, when you grow up on housing insecure or food insecure, I know what it is to feel all of those things. And so when you have an opportunity to serve people that represent the communities that raised you and figure out how to make a difference, if I can be touching that passion in some way, that will always be my goal. But the small things are, you starting with, you getting email addresses is moving the needle. Making sure that people have stable housing and can remain stably housed is moving the needle. Housing stability is economic mobility, because people have historically, even with affordable housing opportunities, still experienced housing instability, and we want to get out of that. So we want to say that the people that are here can retain what they have and then build from there. So everything that we do moves the needle. If people don't have bare cupboards, we're moving the needle. But we know there's a continuum, and we want to build towards how do we start out making sure that we're not trying to tell hungry people or people that are $50 short how to save $5, because that's out of touch work. But if we can make sure that people are in a better position and then still have conversations of when the right timing is to say, let's talk about financial literacy, let's talk about digital literacy, let's talk about how to get connected with financial planning. And even if you don't have the money right now, you still want to be poised for, as you grow through stages of having, how you manage that having, and how historically I feel like I lacked financial literacy even as a young person, as a first generation college student in my family, and did not have anybody have a conversation with me about whether getting student loans at a private school was the best financial decision for an 18-year-old to make. And don't get me wrong, I love my alma mater. I loved going there. I still have best friends from attending there. But there were major life decisions that would impact me for decades, that were based in me not having the knowledge or the literacy around understanding how that would impact my life for decades. And so it's a personal passion of mine, because I feel like it represents the communities that raised me. It's a personal passion of mine around why I got into this work. And so when I say the vision isn't just my own vision, but it's what I'm passionate about, of saying, does the work that we do move that needle, so that we can ultimately see that it's not short-term work though. It's not quick work, and it's not quick turnarounds. But if we're ultimately learning the ingredients to a sauce no one has mastered the recipe to, we know that what we learn, they can replicate in Detroit, in Chicago, New York, Florida, West Coast, East Coast, North, South. And it also impacts communities around the world. So it might sound like that's so hot pie in the sky. But I feel like everything you learn on a micro level in this work does have macro implications. And because nobody's handed us the manual of the secret sauce, we're still trying to discover those ingredients. And we have a captive audience of people who need the support, want the support, and we have an opportunity to let those relationships be the building blocks of understanding the recipe that we need to truly see social change. That's what I got.
And that's perfect. That's perfect. Maya, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could talk a lot more about it.
Child, don't get me started.
But maybe another time.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.